Hey y'all, so I'm going to be doing these post-mortem videos on the last video subject that we talked about. The other videos I'm going to try to do those short format, like very formal, edited, like, you know, everything's going to be very segmented and straight from the game. And then these videos are going to be the longer format rambles that are going to have outside inspiration from like the real world and like symbolism and answer a lot of y'all's questions and deep dive your guys' interpretations and theories. So I'm very excited about these ones. They're going to be a lot easier for me to film because I'm not going to have to, me and my editor are not going to have to edit them. They're going to be more of like a podcasty type style. So I also want to preface too, my editor and I were on the same team at work actually, and we both work full-time jobs that require our attention. So unfortunately, I'm not able to make these longer format videos more interesting or edited in a more interesting way for y'all. It's just not feasible for both of us with our work schedules. So that being said, I'm gonna just go ahead and jump into it because we have a lot to cover. We have so many questions and then also a lot of recommendations for the next video. I'm going to do the Michaela Godwyn video for sure, but there was a lot of people who came out of the woodwork wanting to talk about the Crucible, and that's been a thing since I came back to Twitter talking about lore. People have literally just like come at me in my DMs and in my comments and on Tumblr even, which I barely use anymore, sending me like long paragraphs about how the Great Tree is mistranslated, or how the Crucible's a metaphysical thing, or how it's a physical thing, or how it is a tree, or how it's not a tree. There's a lot of dialogue about the Crucible, and there has been since the game came out, so I'll talk about that in another video, but this video is going to be focusing on Godwyn and Godric and the grafting curse. So the first two questions that I had, one was actually a recommendation for Blaring Blue, where they wanted me to elaborate more on the connection between Godwyn and corpse wax, and then also about Godric using corpse wax to make his grafted soldiers. And so I'm going to get into that because the marred leather shield is quite vague. Him and I, or her and I, or they and I, we were talking we were talking about it. But the marred leather shield is the shield of Stormvale soldiers, much like the castle. It is marred by mottling and thorns. Some say it is the curse of grafting, which causes such affliction, while others talk of its root being something altogether more sinister hidden deep within the castle. So that could be interpreted as it's one thing or it's the other. The Blaring Blue sees it that way, where it's like, ooh, it could be grafting, but it could be this thing. I see it as, it could be grafting, it could be this thing. These things could also be related. And there's evidence to point to that, so I'm going to elaborate more because I feel like there's a lot and it's really cool and really neat, but I'm also going to be answering another question at the same time because I have to get into some real world stuff which is like never fun because people will be like, oh, it's not in the game, but like it is in the game because it just is. Like if a bike is in the game and I reference like a bike in real life and people are like, but it's not explained in the game, I don't know what to tell you. But like, we'll get into it. But Victor was saying, great, in my Great, in my playthrough, I interpreted the wax on the gargoyles as resin from the Erd Tree, especially seeing it on the sealed doors and windows in the capital. I was wondering if there was any parallels or relation between the two substances. I also got another question from somebody asking if there was corpse wax in the capital sealing the doors, if that was related to anything in particular. Unfortunately, okay, so it's like definitely the same color as the corpse wax that's on the gargoyles stuff, but I cannot tell you why it's there. I have no clue. There's nothing in the game that even like hints at why they would seal their doors shut currently. I'm unsure, but I will get into the difference between root resin, beeswax, grafting, corpse wax, and grafting wax. They're two different things. And then I'm going to talk more about this stuff. So let's get into it, but first I need to, hold on, let me put this cool guy in the background actually. I'm standing right in front of this valiant gargoyle who is one of my favorite little examples of grafting. So if I want to get technical about it, he's actually a really great example of mending. So, but it's still grafting. Also, I'm so sorry about how sputtery my Elgato gets when I'm sharing my display at the same time. I'm sorry. We'll keep the camera still so it's not like as hard on the eyes. But you can see there's like this red, this like red gash, like right here, like this part of him is red, and then he has a red face on this side. This side is more yellow, and then he has like a yellow face on this side. He's made up of so many different pieces of gargoyles, but they're all gargoyles. Fundamentally, it's all pieces of a gargoyle, so they're all technically the same specimen, or the same thing, same species. I guess that'd be the better word, specimen. What the fuck? But let me backtrack. Let's back the fuck up. Let's talk about corpse wax, because there seems to be some kind of miscommunication about root resin and corpse wax. They're two different things, but it's funny that Victor brings this point up because it actually makes me wonder a little bit. But let's talk about it first. So corpse wax is called grave wax or mortuary wax. It is a wax-like organic substance that is formed by bacterial, I can't pronounce this, bacterial hydrolysis of fat in the tissue, such as body fat in corpses. In its formation, putrefaction is replaced by permanent firm cast of fatty tissues, internal organs, and the face. So it becomes like hardened. There was like a guy who described it as like soap, like it's like a soap-like substance, and it's typically left in really damp. I know that there's very like damp locations that this occurs in. It's really nasty and gnarly and gross to talk about, but it's really interesting because you can actually kind of see it depicted on the little Godwyn. There's like this yellow substance that's like oozing out of his face. That would be what corpse wax kind of looks like. It's just coagulated fat that like accrues in like the pockets of skin. And there's another thing in the game that is evidence to show that this is what they're referring to. They're not referring to some other type of wax that is native to Elden Ring's world. It is in fact real world corpse wax, and we can see that because they show us a corpse wax finger that is like, you can see the gray skin. That's like a dead person. There's like no blood going through it anymore. And then this weird kind of like watery, like mushy kind of thing on the digit that's like kind of orange. That's the corpse wax. That's the corpse wax, y'all. It's like this weird gold color and I hate it. But the reason why it's important to mending things together is actually a little scientific, kind of. It's kind of in like the Frankenstein side of science, where it's very like but it's supposed to help mend things that are like, here, let me talk about plants first, because this is the realm of my expertise. So there's something called grafting, where you have a scion plant, which is a brand new plant. It's like the plant that you're introducing to the rootstock, so the part of the plant that is like still attached to its roots. So this little part right here on the twig, this is actually a better picture. This part right here is still attached to the main body of the plant, and then you can stick the other plant by cutting off like a limb. You can stick the other plant inside of it, and then what you do is you take grafting wax, which is usually made out of resin and beeswax, to seal up the cut wounds, so that way it doesn't lose it's kind of like a scab. So it doesn't lose its hydration, it doesn't like damage the plant any further, and it fully heals the plant to the thing that it's trying to attach to. And plants are super resilient and they can graft like this super easily. And later down in medical science, we learned how to do skin grafting and like a bunch of other stuff with red blood cells. So it's really cool to see this being referenced in the game, because trees are such like a huge part of the world within Elden Ring. And something really neat about the Valiant Gargoyles in particular is that they actually start to propagate when their limbs are severed from the main part of it. For those of you that have no fucking clue what I'm saying right now, hold on. Let me actually go to deep root depths really quick and explain. Okay, so now we are at the deep root depths and we are looking at the corpse of a valiant gargoyle. And it's super cool because as you can see where its arm has been severed, let me actually grab one of my plants. Hold on. So this is one of my pothos, and the cool thing about pothos is that when you sever them from the main body, like you just sever like a couple, like a sprig, like a couple leaves, and you put it in a jar of water, it actually regrows its roots and begins to do what's called propagation. So you can pretty much take a pothos plant and like clip any number of these and stick them all in water and make a new pothos plant. And it seems like the valiant gargoyles are actually growing their own roots again, so you can keep propagating them over and over and over again. They're asexual, which is real neat. They're just like plants. And you can actually see the hole where the rib cage is all kind of muddled and looks weird. Also, sorry, I was showing off my Persona playlist there for a second. And my message was appraised. Cool, I'm helpful. But it's really cool to see how like whoever the fuck is down here. Also, wait, hold on, let me show y'all. This is like one of my crazy conspiracy theories. Somebody is fucking down here. Oh, also my glowstones went out. That's weird. Somebody is storing corpses. Like, so there's normally like more, there's like a live one that's in here, but somebody's storing these corpses down here. And then there's valiant gargoyles that are like being grafted together to continue to be mended over and over and over again. So they typically spawn in areas that are protecting Queen Marika or like the Erd Tree, which makes me think like, oh shit, is Queen Marika the one who's responsible for this? Or there's also the Black Knife Kindred ones, which makes me think like, oh shit, is Gronk responsible for this? I don't know who originally created, I don't know who's doing this, but it seems like it's very important that they are here, which just so happens to be right near the Prince of Death's throne, because here's another source for corpse wax, potentially. And I'm going to revisit a quote that was said in my last video. It's also really gross too because he's very yellow. Yeah. Like his skin is very yellow. Let's go back to this. Also, I got a picture. This is also from Zuli's video, which shows that the grafted are multiple different people. It's like two different bodies that are stuck together. And like I mentioned before, there is medical grafting for red blood cell mammals. It is possible, but definitely not to this extent. And that makes me think that there's something more supernatural happening. And it just so happens to say in the Gargoyles Twin Blade that the says the bronze twin blade wielded by the valiant gargoyles, just like the wielder, missing parts have been mended with corpse wax, a patchwork of champions. And I made sure to check the translation of this like item. I can't think of words. And it definitely differentiates between the missing parts of items, of weapons, and the missing parts of the body. That's like the terminology that's used. So it definitely seems like there's a lot of mending going on to like repair both soldier and the soldier's tools. So it's super crazy, super interesting. I love the imagery here. I love the like I don't know, like I love how confusing this mystery is of like who the fuck is grafting these gargoyles down here. Like the valiant gargoyle that we fight, the boss fight, they're protecting the deep root depths. Like they're preventing us from going up the Great Waterfall Basin, which makes me like, I'm like, who is it? Like, who did it? Who? So that's a fun thing to think about. But it's funny, what I was saying before is that it's funny that Victor brings up this question. I was wondering if there's any parallels or relation between the two substances. I think maybe you were referring to the sealed doors and windows, but I was actually thinking about this from the Erd tree perspective. Resin from the Erd tree. Since the Erd tree is absorbing physical corpses, I almost wonder if there's like, if the root resin is like also actually corpse wax? Maybe? I don't know, but I know that the root resin itself is like red. It's like, there's a lot going on there, especially with like the great tree conversation that's had right now, but that goes back into Crucible territory and we're not touching that in this video because I can't. So yeah, it's a lot. Necroblossom said, do you think that Serosh could have anything to do with corpse wax and grafting? A lot of people seem to think that the practice of grafting originated from Serosh being attached to Godfrey's body. I actually don't know about this because when we encounter Godfrey and Serosh, it's like, it's a little weird because obviously we fight the golden version of Godfrey, which is like his remembrance or like his ghost kind of. It definitely looks like a remembrance, like it's the gold. But the Godfrey that meets up with us and fights us towards the end of the game, he's like, he died, like he's tarnished like us, like he died. And when you die, you reanimate and you awaken and you see this golden light that it's like normally the light leads you to the afterlife after you die. Like everybody says, walk toward the light or don't walk toward the light, you know? But you wake up and you're alive again because the trees willed it and wants you to like resolve the stuff that's happening. So when the intro cinematic is playing and they say, hello, like the narrator, you can see that he's actually he's strung up on a tree. He's like impaled into a tree and Serosh is like bent over him, like bleeding also. And a part of me wonders if the Serosh, when you bring this up, Necroblossom, a part of me wonders if the actual like original Serosh was a physical thing that was grafted to him. I don't know, because the one that we fight at the end of the game is a spirit. It's like a big ghost thing. He's like translucent. I don't know if there are any instances of like a ghost being grafted to somebody. I don't know. It's a little like, it's hard to say. I don't know. That would be really a cool concept though. I guess Ronnie, but that's not really like grafting. That's more primal glintstone manipulation. That's different. I think that's more you're putting somebody's consciousness into something, like the dolls. I don't see it as being similar to grafting, or sorry, I don't see it as being similar to Serosh's situation because he's attaching to somebody that's still alive and has a soul. I don't know. Also, here's a little fun picture of a guy painting on some root resin or grafting wax to repair a tree. And this is actually really cool because you can actually attach unrelated trees to the branch. I think I should have mentioned this earlier, but you can grow peaches out of like a totally different type of fruit tree. Like 2 different fruits on the same tree, which is so cool. You can't get that complicated, obviously, with human grafting, but yeah, it's really neat. Resin and beeswax are typically used to close up the incisions on the plant to keep them moist and moving and healed and not dried out and scabby and weird. But yeah. That being said, I hope this was somewhat informative. Grafting wax, I guess the major takeaways: grafting wax, different than corpse wax. Corpse wax in the Elden Ring world used for mending bodies back together. The Godwyn pustule has corpse wax visible on it. corpse wax is like a waxy, soapy, yellowy substance that appears on the faces of dead things. It also appears... Oh my god, I have this gross story that I learned in one of my archaeology courses. There was a guy who like apparently thought that corpse wax, so he would find mummies and he would find this weird waxy substance on them, and he thought that it was a substance used to preserve the bodies, and he like took it and made a candle out of it, and used to like, I guess, burn the candle during his lectures, and like thought it was just like wax, but it was like, oh my god, it was so gnarly, dude. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that it makes sense that for plants, because of plant cell structure, you would use plant materials to graft it together with grafting wax. Makes sense to me that in the Elden Ring universe, a fictional universe, you would use corpse wax, which is like a living, red-blooded mammal type situation, and graft together other critters. It makes sense that for the gargoyles that they do this. And it makes sense that because of the corpse wax that is visible on Godwyn's corpse, that Godric would also use this to do the grafting curse. And it also makes sense that Godric is one of the only NPCs in the game that has this ability to graft people. Unless I'm curious about the Revenants. What's the deal with the Revenants? I don't fucking know. Why do they have 4 arms? Why does Rena have 4 arms? We'll get into that in another video, probably. But did you all notice, Demon Souls fans out there? Did you all notice that the Fool's Idol doll also has 4 arms? And then obviously, like, the marionettes have 4 arms. There's definitely something with Miyazaki and his like 4-arm thing. Do you know what I mean? Where did I want to take y'all? I wanted to take y'all somewhere else. Oh, I wanted to go look at some of the windows and the doors. The doors that y'all were talking about. Oh, is this on my other character? Yeah, this is. No. Actually, hold on. I hate running around Landell. It's like impossible. I'm just trying to sightsee. Why does that have to be so complicated for me to just like stare at some windows and doors that are sealed? Ooh, hey, item. Like I'm just trying to show the class. I'm just trying to show the class my project. Ooh, another item that I missed. Okay, these ones, these doors and windows. See how they're sealed with like that gold stuff? Oh my god. Did I even kill? I didn't kill the Erd Tree Avatar. Okay, bye 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 bye.